Kenya's striking doctors get an ultimatum: go to work or go to jail. A red light means go at pediatric wards in southern Malawi. And jewelry goes high-tech at the Japanese Jewelry Expo. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Standing defiant, Kenyan doctors say they're going to ignore Thursday's court ruling ordering them to return to work within 5 days, or their union leaders will be locked up. The doctors' union says the current 7-week strike will continue as long as needed to secure demands for better pay and conditions. Several thousand doctors and their supporters marched from the court to the center of Nairobi, where leaders of the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union rejected the time limit imposed by the court. Justice Helen Wasilo had initially handed union leaders a suspended 1-month sentence on January the 12th after they defied a December ruling declaring the strike illegal.
I'll suspend this sentence further, so the doctors will not be going to jail today. They have 5 more days, and this 5 days is not for negotiation in my view. It's for calling off the strike, because I'm dealing with the case for contempt. It's for calling off the strike. The negotiations are the sidebar.
Well, the strike, which began on December the 5th, has emptied hospital beds as relatives have taken their patients home to care for them. The union is demanding the fulfillment of a 2013 agreement, which it says awarded doctors a 150 to 180% pay raise on basic salaries, a review of working conditions and promotions criteria, as well as hiring of more staff in state hospitals. In London, protesters gathered outside the annual general meeting for the British mining corporation, Lonmin, on Thursday. They are demanding the firm be held responsible for the so-called Marikana massacre at its platinum mine in South Africa in August 2012, when South African police shot and killed 34 striking mine workers. In 2015, a commission of inquiry that lasted nearly 3 years found Lonmin police and labor unions were to blame for the killings. The protesters have joined calls from civil society groups for compensation for the families of the dead miners, a public apology and a monument.
We would like the shareholders to hear the narrative that is likely to die if it's not retold now and again. We would like to see the shareholders taking responsibility for ethical investment, so that their money is used for developmental reason rather than destruction of human life and environment.
Well, Amnesty International says the mining company should also act with urgency in providing affordable accommodation for those who live in squalid conditions in informal settlements around the Marikana mine. Well, Gambian President Adama Barrow, who was inaugurated in neighboring Senegal, as has engineered an exit deal for long-standing ruler Yahya Jammeh is to return to Gambia on Thursday. That's according to a senior aide. Meanwhile, Barrow has asked a regional force of several thousand soldiers to stay and help him restore democratic governance after they entered Gambia last week to enforce election results that brought an end to Jammeh's 22 years in power. Jammeh's government gained a reputation for the torture and killing of perceived opponents, and many Gambians are furious that he will not face trial at home for those abuses. Now to the anticipated meeting between British Prime Minister Theresa May and new U.S. President Donald Trump. Prime Minister May is set to call for a renewal of the special relationship with the United States as Britain prepares to leave the European Union. May previewed her U.S. visit when she spoke before the House of Commons in the British Parliament Wednesday, saying the special relationship allows leaders of both countries to speak candidly about the issues between them.
But on the issue of my visit to the United States of America, on the issue of my visit to the United States of America, I'm pleased that I am able to meet President Trump so early in his administration. That is a sign of the strength of the special relationship between the United Kingdom and the United States of America, a special relationship on which he and I intend to build. But can I also say to the Leader of the Opposition, I am not afraid to speak frankly to a President of the United States. I am able to do that because we have that special relationship.
May left London Thursday for Philadelphia ahead of a visit to the White House on Friday. She will be the first foreign leader to meet with President Donald Trump in Washington since he took office. May is scheduled to speak Thursday at a retreat for Republican members of Congress, where, according to prepared remarks, she will highlight the history of a relationship she says made the modern world. May's visit comes as Trump signed an executive order to construct a wall at the U.S.-Mexico border and prepared another instituting a freeze on admitting refugees and an entry ban for people from a group of 6 Muslim majority nations. Well, May has called Trump's past remarks about women unacceptable, but is ready to focus on the bigger issues of trade and security when she sits down with the American president. VOA Europe correspondent Luis Ramirez reports from London.
The biggest rallies against President Trump's inauguration outside the United States have been led by feminists in Britain, still angry over campaign revelations of controversial remarks about women. But it is the future of trade in the post-Brexit era, terrorism, and the conflict with Syria that tops Theresa May's agenda with Trump.
I will be talking to Donald Trump about the issues that we share, about how we can build on this special relationship. It's the special relationship that also enables us to say when we do find things unacceptable.
May says she won't be afraid to challenge him.
I think the biggest statement that will be made about the role of women is the fact that I will be there as a female Prime Minister, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, directly talking to him about the interests that we share.
Some observers predict that could be an awkward moment between two people with very different personalities.
I would think for somebody of Theresa May's background, the way she comports herself, the way that she's lived her life, to confront Donald Trump is going to be moving into meeting somebody from a very different world. Or not quite a different planet, but certainly a different world.
But for both Trump and May, the common interests and the historic special relationship between the two nations are much higher than any potential personality and gender issues that the media in both countries have raised. May recently presented her plan for Britain's departure from the European Union, an exit Trump supports. May scoring the first sit-down with a new U.S. leader bolsters her position at home. Government sources here say what she wants now is a free trade deal that cuts tariffs. Warnings from Trump's predecessor that Britain would go to the back of the queue on trade deals now seems a distant memory. Theresa May has made it to the front of the line. Luis Ramirez, VOA News, London.
Well, there is an intense discussion ongoing in Washington over a purported draft executive order suggesting President Donald Trump may review how America interrogates suspected terrorists. The New York Times and the Associated Press both reported they have copies of the document, which is said to be circulating among top administration officials. The supposed presidential order would keep open the U.S. prison at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, where 41 suspected terrorists are still held. However, White House spokesman Sean Spicer told reporters Wednesday that the draft is not a White House document, but offered no further explanation. Former President Barack Obama had criticized Guantanamo Bay, saying the use of so-called enhanced interrogation techniques employed by the CIA served as a recruiting tool for Islamic State terrorists. The order also allegedly calls for the reopening of the so-called black site prisons operated outside the United States by the CIA, where suspected terrorists were detained and interrogated. Obama closed the CIA-run black site prisons. Now, according to news organizations, the document says U.S. laws should be obeyed at all times and explicitly rejects torture. During his campaign, Trump endorsed bringing back waterboarding, a harsh interrogation method that simulates drowning, which Obama banned and now is prohibited by U.S. law. New Defense Secretary James Mattis had said torturing suspected terrorists is unlikely to prevent future attacks. U.S. President Donald Trump is moving forward on one of his earliest campaign promises. That's building a wall between the United States and Mexico in an effort to thwart illegal immigration. President Trump signed 2 executive orders Wednesday, one to immediately begin construction of a barrier along the southern U.S. border, And another that ramps up enforcement and threatens to withhold federal funding from cities that don't comply with federal immigration laws. VOA's Aru Pandey has more.
It's an issue Donald Trump brought up repeatedly during his campaign for president.
We're in the middle of a crisis on our southern border. The unprecedented surge of illegal migrants from Central America is harming both Mexico and the United States.
And just days into his presidency, Trump stood before Department of Homeland Security employees on Wednesday and announced the immediate construction of a border wall he says will improve safety for both nations.
A nation without borders is not a nation. Beginning today, the United States of America gets back control of its borders, gets back its borders.
The announcement comes a week before Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto is set to visit the White House for talks, amid controversy over Trump's comments that Mexico will pay for the border wall, a notion Nieto has rejected. Wednesday, Trump expressed his, quote, deep admiration for the people of Mexico and touted closer ties between the two neighbors.
By working together on a positive trade, safe borders, and economic cooperation, I truly believe we can enhance the relation between our two nations to a degree not seen before, certainly in a very, very long time.
In addition to building a wall along the 3,200-kilometer U.S.-Mexico border and increasing the number of Border Patrol officers, the executive actions target the 11 million illegal immigrants living in the United States by looking to strip federal grant money from cities that harbor them. Amanda Frost is acting director of American University's Immigration Justice Clinic.
This is not going to solve our immigration problems. We can't deport our way out of our immigration problems. And so I think while this may play well with a certain subset of the people that voted for him who haven't really delved into the issue themselves, it's not going to solve the problem. So it's sort of a lot of effort, time, and money and resources into something that leaves us in the same position we're in.
The Republican president is also said to be considering a 4-month freeze on all refugee admissions, as well as a ban for at least 30 days on entry to the U.S. by anyone from Iraq, Iran, Libya, Syria, Somalia, Sudan, or Yemen, all Muslim-majority countries. The executive order is expected to come in the coming days. Aru Pandey, VOA News, the White House.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54. Check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Now, coming up, how an innovative triage system is saving children's lives in Malawi. Stay with us.
And technology, here's what's new.
How about a case for your smartphone that also contains your own personal video drone? Israeli company Cellfly has built a phone case that includes a miniature drone with a camera that you fly and control with your smartphone. Cellfly founder Haggai Klein.
You're controlling the photo just the way you want it to be. You want it to be bigger, to zoom in. You just manipulate it with your fingers to zoom in.
The drone's 8-megapixel camera captures video at 1080 pixels and 30 frames per second. After a flight, just snap it back into the case along with your phone.
It's always with you. You don't have to think about taking it with you.
The Cellfly case fits most smartphones on the market. The thing is, it's a bit bulky at 9 millimeters thick, and the drone flies for only about 5 minutes before it needs charging. Cellfly says they hope to have their product on the market later this year for $140. For VOA's What's New, I'm Todd Grossons.
I'm Milar Sega. I'm the host of VOA's The Correspondents, a roundup of the world's top stories with analysis from our dedicated reporters. It's really a conversation the same way that you would bring a friend to your home and ask them what's going on. And our correspondents will do that and answer those questions through their own eyes.
That appears a false choice in more ways than one.
We can't actually put you there, but we can come pretty close. In 30 minutes, we'll show you the world.
Welcome back. It's time for Health Report. And joining us now is Africa 54's health correspondent Lino Mudu with new information on how your personality connects with your brain. Lino.
And that's right, Vincent. A new study says our personality traits are linked to differences in parts of our brains. Scientists from the US, Britain, and Italy analyzed the brain scans of 500 young, healthy volunteers and questionnaires designed to assess 5 personality traits: neuroticism, extraversion, openness, agreeableness, and conscientiousness. They found that different traits were linked to differences in the thickness of the cortex, the outer layer of the brain, how folded the cortex was, and the overall volume of the brain. Those with thicker and less wrinkled cortex tended to have more neurotic tendencies. Open-minded people were more likely to have thinner cortex. The study published in the journal Social Cognitive and Affective Neuroscience. The World Health Organization recently urged all countries to closely monitor any outbreaks of the deadly avian influenza in birds and poultry. Different strains of bird flu have been spreading across Europe and Asia since last year. This has led to large-scale slaughtering of poultry in certain countries and some human death in China. The WHO says the new H5N6 strain causing severe outbreaks in Asia was created by gene swiping among 4 different viruses. Meanwhile, an outbreak of bird flu has been reported in Uganda, where hundreds of wild birds were found dead on the shores of Lake Victoria. Ugandan authorities have not confirmed which strain of the avian flu caused the bird's death. Countries are urged to report promptly any human cases that could signal the start of a flu pandemic.
I am asking all countries to keep a close watch over outbreaks of avian influenza in birds and related human cases. Just since November of last year, nearly 40 countries have reported fresh outbreaks of highly pathogenic avian influenza in poultry or wild birds. The rapidly expanding geographical distribution of these outbreaks and the number of virus strains currently co-circulating have put WHO on high alert. In the most recent 2 clusters, WHO could not rule out limited human-to-human transmission, though no sustained transmission has been detected to date.
And the WHO's Director General, Dr. Margaret Chan, adds all member states are required to detect and report human cases promptly as required by the international health regulations. Now, 3 years ago, health workers in Malawi began using a system designed by the World Health Organization to triage sick children using the 3 colors of a traffic light. The results have been dramatic, and Malawi is now looking to expand the life-saving initiative. Lamek Messina has our report.
Patricia Hamza brings her daughter in with a headache and vomiting. She fears it is malaria. But as usual, the pediatric waiting room at Ndirande Health Center is already full. Hamza is worried that her daughter doesn't have time to wait. But minutes later, a medical worker arrives and assesses the child's condition, gives her a yellow ruler, and they jump the queue straight into doctor's room. This is a Chipatala robot program. Specially trained health workers sort children on arrival using the colors of traffic robots. Green can wait, yellow is priority, red is most urgent.
A lot of children that are being saved through this system because they are recognized early at the health facility, and even the referral that they are sending in the stabilized condition, rather than before, whereby they could just send the children without stabilizing.
This is one of 8 health centers using the system.
Children are no longer dying in line while waiting for treatment. I won't say it has been reduced because that would mean it is still happening. It has stopped completely.
Researchers in Malawi are now studying the success of the project, and officials are looking at expanding it to more hospitals. For Hamza, it turns out her daughter has pneumonia.
We used to come queue as early as 5 o'clock in the morning and not return home until around 2 in the afternoon. But this system is very efficient.
She's already filling her daughter's prescription and getting ready to head home. Lamek Masina for VOA News, Blantyre, Malawi.
That's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter at Linor Mudu. Back to you, Vincent.
Well, Lenore, thank you very much. Now be sure to watch for Lenore Madu's health updates every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. Now, with more than 1 million international students studying to get a university degree in the United States, one of the challenges they face is getting approval to obtain a credit card. Banks and other lenders approve credit card requests based upon a person's credit history, something a foreign student may have difficulty providing. But now there are lenders that cater to international students by looking at alternative metrics to determine a person's credit worthiness. VOA's Elizabeth Lee has more.
After leaving Beijing to study in the United States, Jack Guo has learned to navigate a new language, different methods of getting around, and even a new way of managing his money. That means getting a credit card.
A lot of my friends who have had the cards already, because it's pretty important to get around on LA. And also, if you are going to stay here afterwards for job, for internship, for career, of course you are going to consider buying a property to live here, and having a credit is pretty important in order to get a loan.
Unlike many cash-based societies, credit cards are widely used in the United States, especially with the advent of e-commerce, where users with a credit card and a smartphone can buy items and order food or a car ride. But getting an American credit card as an international student is not easy. Traditional U.S. lenders ask for the social security number of applicants and look at their credit history, things most international students don't have.
The traditional system was designed in 20th century, before internet, before smartphone, before social media, and it's kind of antiquated. We are inventing a new system.
Kalpesh Kapadia, a former student from India, is the co-founder of SelfScore, a lender that issues credit cards to students from abroad.
They have to prove their financial wherewithal to study, and when they come here, they are treated as if they are invisible from the credit system standpoint.
Based in Silicon Valley, SelfScore looks at a different kind of data to determine a person's credit worthiness.
Everyone has a smartphone, everyone has a social media presence. So what we look at is that these people have been through many filters in the society.
For filters, SelfScore looks at documents presented by the applicant, including acceptance to a school, passport, visa, and ability to pay. Kapadia said fewer than 1% of SelfScore's 10,000 credit card holders are delinquent on payments.
This is a highly motivated population. Someone who comes here 10,000 miles away to make their life better through education is going to behave quite differently.
The 15 to 20% who don't pay their total monthly balances are charged high interest, about 19%. Keeping payments current can help them get loans for future large purchases in the U.S., such as a car or home.
One of the benefits I hope to get is, of course, to build this credit, which is very important in terms of you want to get a loans from the bank.
So far, students from more than 66 countries and attending 400 colleges in the U.S. have a SelfScore credit card. Elizabeth Lee, VOA News, Palo Alto, California.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, Outside the Box, bubbles at the Japan Jewelry Expo. We'll be right back.
We would like to see the shareholders taking responsibility.
Très heureuse de commencer l'année 2017 en République de Centrafrique.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. Most of us don't think of poultry when we are choosing a gift. Now, Vietnam is preparing for the year's celebration of Tet. That's the local term for Lunar New Year, which starts on January the 28th. Roosters-themed decorations are available at the street market stalls. But some Hanoi residents want to buy the real thing to celebrate the year of the fire rooster. Fancy chicken lovers have been flocking to this farm to look for the colorful, long-feathered fowls. In Vietnam, the tradition of keeping chickens as pets and training them for cockfighting have been practiced for centuries. Well, next up, in one of Baghdad's popular Shia districts is a store that is making its mark in the city. This tattoo parlor is seeing a steady flow of customers. Getting inked in Iraq is something that has become increasingly popular over the years, with an increasing number of tattoo and piercing parlors opening in the capital. Religious icons are the most in-demand designs, with customers requesting religious sayings or an image of a Shia imam. Tattoos start from $15 and vary depending on the size and intricacy of the design. Well, and finally, blinking tiaras, engagement ring boxes equipped with spy cams and diamond-dusted hourglasses were some of the eye-catching items showcased among the more than 1,000 booths at Japan's biggest jewelry expo. Jewelers are going all out to make special occasions more memorable. So why a spy cam engagement ring? Well, it isn't tradition to kneel when proposing in Japan, which meant the camera lens had to be placed at the bottom half of the box facing the proposee instead of on the lead. Fewer people were buying engagement rings, so he wanted to add an element of surprise to the fading trend. And that is what is trending today. Well, and that's our show for today. Now, be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa, that is between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching from all of us here in Washington. Have a good night. I'm Vincent Makori from Africa 54. This is VOA. Follow us on Africa 54. Go to facebook.com/VOA Africa 54.
The Voice of America today is a window in which we have to see delivering the messages for contacting the people wherever they are. And Albanian people, as people of a small country, need to have such and deserve to have such information from the United States and from all around the world. So it's a bridge. Voice of America, it's a bridge between entire world and Albanian citizens.